We're here at the finish line of the regular season for the University of Wisconsin football team. Here to talk about the finale at Penn State. Tom Mulhern, Andy Baggett of the Wisconsin State Journal. I'm Adam Mertz. There's a common theme here running through the Badgers' last few games. 8 losses. The last 8 losses have been by a touchdown or less. This last one against Ohio State, Tom Mulhern, you were in the locker room afterward. This took a lot out of this team, did it not? And how do they bounce back against Penn State?
Well, 4 losses this year by a combined 16 points, and I think you could make a strong case that this was the most devastating of all of them. Really outplayed Ohio State in many aspects of the game, and then just kind of a familiar lament in those losses is a few plays that they're unable to make. I do think this team is not as strong or talented in several areas. They're not as good at quarterback, and that's hurting them on third down percentage quite a bit. They're not as good at wide receiver other than Jared Abbrederis, and they've had nobody step up. They're okay at tight end, and they're not quite as strong in the offensive line. And then running back, obviously they're pretty good, and their defense is playing extremely well, and they've got 3 new specialists. And all those things factor into close games. How many have been missed field goals have been keys in that. So I think it's a long list. I don't know that you can pin it on anything they're doing or not doing in close games, strategically or because of the pressure of the moment. I think it has to do with the skill factor of the team right now.
That's Andy Baggett. What's been your perspective and your take on why this team can't get over the hump in those games?
Well, this season I think you have a unique set of circumstances that Tom just alluded to, and I think that when you look at the opponents that they've played here, Michigan State, very good defense, Ohio State, a very good defense. Again, you're given opportunities to win. Cashing in on them is a totally different deal, and you need a little bit of luck. You need a vein of reliability from some of the people that you're calling on in those key moments. And this year has been a very odd time in that your different quarterbacks have all had experience with these difficult losses, from Danny O'Brien at Oregon State to Joel Stavey with Michigan State to now Kurt Phillips with Ohio State. So you've got right there a lack of continuity at quarterback. So a lot of factors go into it, but I think with regards to Wisconsin's ability to overcome, you need your big players to step up. Monte Ball to a degree did, but people are going to remember that fumble.
Absolutely. And this week with a tough emotional matchup on Penn State's side of the ball as well. This is a team that lost Michael Mauti, a linebacker. He's going to be out for the year. Questions about Coach Bill O'Brien and his future there. For all the goodwill that they have going forward, it's kind of interesting to see where Penn State is at right now, too. They're probably an unknown as well this weekend.
Well, they've dealt with so much this year, and they've dealt with it so well, you would think that they probably would be able to handle anything that comes their way. I think the O'Brien thing, he was asked point blank if he's for sure, if he can say he's coming back next year, pretty much dodged the question. So he left that open. I think that could be the most devastating thing of all. Here are these guys, when they had nobody else to turn to, and it seemed like everybody was abandoning ship and leaving them, they had this head coach who came in and talked tough from the beginning, and they rallied around him. So I think that could be huge. I really do. But, you would think Wisconsin going in there, until this came up, and some of these things, that it was going to be a huge advantage for Penn State because it's their final game of the year, and a lot's riding on it. They don't have a postseason. They were putting a lot into this game. So from that perspective, it seemed like a tough road for Wisconsin. But now with this O'Brien thing thrown, I think it throws a curveball into the whole situation.
Andy, Beaver Stadium's been a really tough place to play for a lot of teams, Wisconsin included. You were alluding to some other factors that may kind of take the wind out of the sails there this weekend.
Well, take a really good defender off the charts for Penn State, losing its top linebacker, but also it's Thanksgiving weekend. 21,000 students are there. I know that Penn State has taken some unusual steps to try and accommodate its students to make sure that they're there. But you look at also what the pressure here is for Wisconsin, for Penn State, trying to come back, trying to finish the season strong. I'm reminded of Alabama going to LSU and losing a tough game. Everybody talked about them, that it would be so draining, so difficult the following week. And Wisconsin definitely had a draining game against Ohio State. But to have to kind of muster those resources is going to be a bit of a challenge, I think, for Wisconsin.
Other issue that we've been talking about has surfaced a little bit from time to time is, should the Badgers rest players since they already have the berth for the Big Ten championship game locked up? What's your guys' perspective on if which players you would rest, right, and that whole mentality of, do you sit guys out at a key point in the season?
Well, it doesn't make any sense to me. I don't even think it should be an issue. I think Bielema addressed it pretty well last week. This is not the NFL. I know that's the rage in the NFL going into the playoffs, but this is college football. Players have a brief window to play. They want to play. Trust me, any guy who can play wants to play, and I think should be out there.
I'm in total agreement. It's I almost think it's a non-issue. I think when Brett Bielema brought it up last week and addressed it as strongly as he did, I don't know why there should be a carryover this week all of a sudden. You have the interesting case of Chris Borland, but if he's ready, you think he's not going to play? I don't think there's any question that you play your best players as long as you can.
Thanks for joining us. We'll have coverage all week on madison.com and in the pages of the Wisconsin State Journal.